Hello and welcome to the Cannes Parallel Challenge 2024. My name is Arno.
And my name is Matt, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about Mohammad Rasoulof's films A Man of Integrity and his new film, The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Mohammad Rasoulof is an Iranian filmmaker, and like most Iranian filmmakers nowadays, he's had his fair share of passport confiscation, arrests, and prison time for making films that don't conform to the Islamic State. Think of dissident filmmakers like Jafar Panahi, who was recently released from prison, and Saeed Rustai. Rasoulof isn't as well known as Farhadi or Kiarostami within the Iranian canon, but he may be on the brink of recognition as his last film, There Is No Evil, won the Golden Bear in 2020. And I must say, I think it's an incendiary masterpiece and an anthology film done right. Rasoulof has a good track record with Cannes, having gone in Un Certain Regard 3 times, winning the Director Prize for Goodbye in 2011 and the top prize for A Man of Integrity in 2017, which is why we thought it would be fitting to watch the film that won the top prize of that program.
A Man of Integrity tells the story of a freshwater fish farmer living in the countryside in Iran. He finds his livelihood is threatened as a company pressures him to sell his land, getting increasingly aggressive in their methods of persuasion. Will he sell, and will he compromise in his morals in order to save his livelihood? The filmmaking style here is confident and assured in a way very similar to Nuri Bilge Ceylan or Asghar Farhadi, though I think both of those filmmakers have written stories or characters that have left me much more deeply affected after the film ends than this one did.
Fair enough, but you'll have to see There Is No Evil before you make an assessment as to the quality of these filmmakers.
I can't wait.
For sure.
I really can't wait to see that one.
Talk about an incendiary film. The more you watch, the more you realize how deep in shit this character is just for being in a desired spot of more powerful families. Rasoulof makes moral films which have lessons of sorts by the end, but he isn't a moralizer. And I think there is an innate understanding that the moral changes within the film are derived from the political situation facing the characters. And so instead of feeling like a fable, this feels like a tragedy. I love the concept of having a character defined by one explicit trait. It's even in the title here, being a man of integrity, and challenging that the whole way. It also just shows that in human relations, integrity may just be an impossible trait to have, or at least to have sustainably, whether in the context of society or whether just as being human.
Yeah, in a society in which people get ahead by abandoning their morals and acting lawlessly, what benefit is there to keeping your integrity other than just stubborn pride? And I really appreciate how Rasoulof dives into this idea as a way for his character to unravel. At what point is the breaking point for this man to realize that his integrity is only worth as much as his opponent's ruthlessness? And does it make him a worse person for stooping to the lows that his opponent is willing to stoop to?
I think one of the key strengths of this film is just showing this character who slowly sees the necessity in losing his deepest values in order to survive. It's a character who isn't caricatural in the slightest thanks to the lead actor's intense performance. I mean, you could have played this in a very obvious way as a character who goes from happy and jolly and smiling to dark and brooding, but here Reza stays the same in his intense tenure, showing that through the change of values, he still takes things very seriously.
I really loved his performance through this film, especially in the scenes where nothing is said whatsoever. Those scenes where he's in his little bath cave. There's just moments where you see him reflecting on what is happening to him and reflecting on how far he's willing to go in compromising his moral values to save himself and his family. There's so much strong work that's happening on screen, and a lot of it is due to the screenplay and a lot of it is due to his performance.
There are many incredible scenes here too. I'm thinking of the one, for example, where Reza's wife threatened a child to speak to her parents about dropping false charges, but seconds later, we learn information about the family that completely shifts our perspective on that scene. And what could have been an easy fist pump scene immediately becomes dark once again. Think also of the moment where the police commissioner tells Reza his son must be punished, and we cut to a long scene of Reza showering his son as thoroughly as possible. I mean, that is impactful. Frankly, this film only furthers my love for Rasoulof as a filmmaker and as a political observer.
I'll really need to watch more of his work. I thought this was a very solid film, but it didn't leave me floored as Nuri Bilge Ceylan or Asghar Farhadi's films. I do think that his ideas are very strong.
Rasoulof is now part of the Un Certain Regard alumni group of filmmakers who have graduated to competition after winning the top prize. Think of filmmakers like Karim Aynous, Ali Abbasi, or Yorgos Lanthimos, funny enough, all of which are in competition this year. The film follows an investigative judge for the Revolutionary Court of Iran who grows more and more paranoid with his work when he loses his gun. This bleeds into his domestic life as he suspects his wife and daughter to be involved.
And what it sounds like to me is a film talking about the women life freedom movement in Iran, where women have poured into the streets to fight against the oppression that they've faced in Iranian society, specifically with the mandatory hijab laws.
Worth noting, the Iranian government has already reacted to the film's inclusion in competition. They've rounded up several cast and crew members, proceeded to have long interrogations, and threatened them to convince Rasoulof to pull the film out of the festival. They have since sentenced Rasoulof to 8 years in prison, and we learned just before the festival started that Rasoulof has escaped the country. This was a story that was really breathtaking to follow, and I really encourage you to read Rasoulof's word not only about the safety of his cast and crew, but also the word he put on Instagram about leaving his home country and belonging to the cultural Iran.
It's also really worth noting the way that this film was produced, because he was under house arrest during the production of this film, and he made the film anyways under these creative restrictions. Being stuck in his house, he invited the cast and crew into his home and made the film entirely in secret. The government had no idea this film existed until the Cannes program was announced, and so that gave him the time to figure out how to get out of the country. Everything we're hearing about this film is just centered around how incredible it is that this movie even exists. As of today, May 18th, Neon has just purchased this film. And Neon, as you might be aware, has 4 times in a row now won the Palme d'Or. They've done it with Parasite, with Titan, with Triangle of Sadness, and last year with Anatomy of a Fall, and this year they are going for number 5. And the early word on the Seed of the Sacred Fig from those industry screenings that got Neon so interested is that this film is genuinely breathtaking. That to me says this is a Palme winner. I really think that this is what it's gonna be.
Some of you very attentive people are going to say, oh, but it's very rare and it's been so long since a Palme winner plays on the very last day of the festival. Guys, this is an exception. The reason why this film is programmed so late is actually to give Rasoulof a little bit more time to finish the film in post-production outside of his home country now. On top of this, let's keep in mind that the last 2 films that Rasoulof has made have won the top prize of both of their programs. And while the Cannes competition is a different echelon than the Un Certain Regard program or the Berlin competition program, this is still a very good sign. I think the Palme is probably between Parthenope and the Seed of the Sacred Fig. We might be dealing with another Neon versus A24 rematch, but this gives me big Grand Prix or Palme d'Or vibes, and at worst, this is director or screenplay.
And to put on my Oscar predictor hat for just 1 second, put this in your Best Picture lineup. Get ahead of the curve, it's winning the Palme.
In the next episode, we explore a new side of Michel Hazanavicius with the war films The Search and The Most Precious of Cargoes.
So join us to see what the Oscar-winning director of The Artist has in store for us next.